Tying up another Carrie Stevens streamer today. This is a streamer called the P.L.B. number 1. It is named after a gentleman by the name of Paul Leonard Bean. There is a P.L.B. number 2 as well, and I've already done a video on that. This is the number 1. Carrie often did flies for friends and people that they knew up there, as well as that lived and worked nearby and did a lot of fishing. So anyway, it's just a straightforward streamer like a lot of hers. It does have a gold tag on it and rib, which is interesting because not many of her streamers actually have a gold rib on them. It has a orange hackle and a slightly shorter red hackle, and for the wing, as well as a blue chicken feather and a jungle cock eye on it. That is the P.L.B. number 1. I'll get started tying. So I'm going to start the P.L.B. 1 with my hook and the vise. This is a Partridge CS5-9X. It's a size 4 hook. This is a little bit smaller in size than some of the larger Partridge hooks I use, primarily because the red hackles that are in the wing on this, my neck, I've pretty much used all the longer feathers, so all I've got are some of these shorter ones. And I thought this would also be a good time to show that you can get some nice size streamers and very effective streamers even with some of these shorter feathers. You just go down to a little bit smaller size. So I'll start by debarbing the hook. There is a tip of gold tinsel on this. I'm using this is a Danville size 12 silver and gold Mylar tinsel, and the body is a red floss. This is a Danville 4-strand rayon in red. I'm going to start by attaching my thread to Danville 210 in white, and I'm going to actually attach the thread just right down here at the back. In many of the videos I usually will attach it up by the head, but I have since learned that the way Carrie Stevens actually tied these, she tied these starting back here at the back end. So I'm just giving that a try. You can certainly start up here and get a nice base layer of thread if you want. It's up to you. But I'm trying to not so much, I'm just trying to focus on how she did things just to learn them and see the rationale and as to why. So I'm going to get some tinsel here. I'm going to tie this in. It is a gold tip on this as well as a gold rib. This is one of the few streamers that Carrie Stevens did that actually has gold in the rib. Most all of them are silver. I'm going to attach that back here just a little bit in front of the point of the hook, and I'm going to wrap back to maybe about the barb. Come back up. There's no tail on this, so I can get away with now tying in my red floss and then wrapping the floss body and then wrapping the tip in the rib at the same time. So I'm going to attach the floss here. Now I'm not running the floss up the full length of the hook. Again, I'm thinking this is some of the streamers that have been taken apart of hers don't show that. They just show her attaching it in the back and then running the thread up and then applying the materials. At least that's my understanding. Now I'm going to stop probably about 3 eye lengths or so behind the eye of the hook This is where we're going to tie in the materials, and then we'll tie in the belly of the streamer. So I'm going to apply the floss, and then I'm going to apply the tinsel, and then we'll be ready for the belly. Mentioned this in other videos, the number of wraps in the rib is not as important on these long featherwing streamers as much as it is keeping them all evenly spaced. So if you want to get more wraps in there, you can. You could even bump the tag down a little bit and then lengthen the body out a little to get another wrap in, or use a thinner. This is a number 12. You could use a number 14 or 16 and 18. It's going to give you closer wraps and more wraps if you want. So with that anchored in, I'm now ready to tie in the belly. Belly of the P.L.B. number 1 is just some white bucktail. This is kind of standard on a lot of most of her streamers, that it's just some white bucktail. I've gone ahead and stacked this. One caveat I can tell you about selecting your bucktail: she selected her bucktail closer to the base, so down in this area here, because it's straighter. There's less waves and kinks in it, which many flies will actually take the hair from the tip or closer to the tip. However, that means that the diameter of each hair is a little bit greater, and it can tend to flare. The other thing is, you want to keep this fairly sparse. If you have too much hair, it can cause the fly not to ride right in the water. It'll ride off to the side or may even flip over. So you just want to kind of keep it sparse. I want this to go just a little bit past the bend of the hook. Wrapping that in. Advance my thread forward a little bit to secure that in. Trim away the excess. Now I like to kind of wrap this down and keep this clean while I'm moving along here. I'm going to tie in the throat now. The first bit of throat, you'll notice that my thread wraps actually were all the way back here, but I started wrapping the belly in a little bit further forward. There's a reason for that, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap my thread back here and loosely wrap right around the base of this, or where that's anchored. The idea being, I don't want to flare these. See, these have started to flare a little bit. I want to collect them. So I'm just going to gently wrap this down like this, and in just kind of collecting that hair so it's not flared out. It's just collected down to the hook shank. That's a very, very gentle wrap right there. You could at this time put a little bit of head cement in there if you want. Anchor that down a little bit. If it is flared a little, I wouldn't get too concerned about it in the water. This is all going to smooth out in the water and flow really, really nice underneath the fly. The throat on this is some orange hackle. I'm using some orange sloppin with some blue sloppin on top. So it is a two-toned throat on this. I'm just going to take I've got some little slips of hackle, sloppin hackle already prepped. I'm going to, I don't blow this out of my hand again. I'm just going to take the orange in my hand and put the blue on top of it. And then I'm going to bunch those together. I don't get too persnickety that the orange is underneath the blue. Really, if it gets mixed up, that's fine. You want the end of the throat to go about halfway down the body. Now I'm wrapping this in, and when I wrap, I'm wrapping forward, mostly because I don't want to pull down any more back here and cause any of that hair to flare out. The first bunch of hackles for the throat just go right underneath, advancing my thread forward just a little bit. I'm going to tie in the next two. Matter of fact, I'm going to add a few thread wraps here to smooth that off. I've got a little bit of a drop right there from where I cut that. I really want my thread wraps right about there. Now these two are going to go are tied in here, and they're more on the sides towards the bottom. The idea is that the next two are going to be covering up the thread wraps, at least the bottom portion of the thread wraps on both sides. So I'm going to place these, at least, you can be a little shorter than the first clump if you want, but no longer than the first clump. I'm just going to place these kind of on the side here, get a couple of wraps around, and that way, if needed, I can use my thumbnail and kind of push some of that hair so that it is on the sides covering up those thread wraps. And then we'll do the last segment. As you can see, the orange and the blue kind of get shuffled up when you wrap these in, and that's fine. I don't think that it's supposed to have like a distinct, orange on there with blue on top. I think it all gets kind of meshed together. Is that a better word? Instead of meshed up, sounds messed up. But as you can see, all these thread wraps right back here that bound in the belly are now covered on both sides. The wing's going to cover up a lot of that too, but it's my understanding that this is why she tied these in, starting back here and kind of advancing forward to try and cover up those thread wraps. Just make it look a little cleaner, a little neater. Smoothing all of this off, I'm now ready to tie in the wing. I'm going to be about halfway down the head here where I tie the wing in. The wing is made of an orange hackle with a red hackle, so there's one orange on each side, a red hackle that's slightly shorter than the orange, and then a chicken breast feather dyed blue for a shoulder with an eye of jungle cock. Very colorful fly. I imagine you could do this with a silver tag and rib just as well, but I think the gold kind of enhances the orange just a little bit. I'm going to trim these off right down at the base of those wings like that. And I'm going to separate this. I want each wing to just lay kind of on the sides, but near the top. Now the butt ends that I cut are right up just a little behind the eye of the hook. I'm going to gently wrap over here and start wrapping rearward, actually wrapping in some of those hackles to the rear portion of the head. And then I get to take a look at it and see it all seems to be sitting up there pretty good. If I can't move that just a little bit, I think it is resting on both sides of the hook shank. Pretty good. It's interesting because some of these feather wing streamers, a lot of them, they have each of the wings tied so that they do cover up the hook underneath. They run just right on top of the hook shank. And I don't know if it's because they're trying to get it to swim a certain way, because others, they'll have all of this clumped together and they'll have it tied right on top, so it actually kind of cocks up a little bit. Something else to research a little bit. Now I'm going to come forward right behind the eye of the hook and smooth all of this out to make the head. The head on the P.L.B. number 1 is black with a red band. I am going to double check that real quick because I wonder if it's actually an orange band. Memory serves, it was a red band. Pardon me. I want to make certain that, yep, it's red. These days, I just want to make certain that my brain is remembering things the way that it's supposed to. So now I am going to leave this hang, the white, and it's a little bit different way of doing the head on this. In the past, I've done it a couple of different ways. Most often on my videos, I would have switched this to a red thread. And then at this point, I would secure that and I put a black band in front and in back. But I learned also that that's not how she did it. She would leave the white thread on and attach the black. And understand these were silk threads that they were using, so they were definitely bigger than what we're using here. This is, by the way, this is a Danville 770 Denier or 6/0 black. Once that's secured, I'm going to trim the tag from the black there. I'm going to leave the white hanging. I'm going to complete the front portion here. You just want to make certain that you're not leaving any gaps for the white to show through. So with the front portion pretty much done, I'm going to actually take the white thread, drape it over the knob on my vise to just get it out of the way. Now I'm going to take a red, which is a Danville 70 Denier in red, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to attach it right here and start wrapping that in for the red band. Doing it this way, I have a white base under that red thread. Now, the only thing that's kind of interesting, oh, that all just fell off. The only thing that's kind of interesting with this is her process here. I suppose you could do a whip finish with the black right there and just remove it if you wanted to. You could leave the black on as you put the red band in. The only problem is then the black is going to show through underneath. So you technically, I guess, should trim the black off here. It's secured in. But I think she actually somehow did it in such a way that the black she kept on. Because see, if you're just wrapping over this and wrapping rearward, then your black's in there, the white's underneath here. I don't know. Again, still kind of researching and learning as I go along here. Now I get the red band in, and again, you want to try to make certain you don't have any of the white underneath showing through. And here, I can reattach the black thread. Right up against the red. Once I get a few wraps in here, I can trim away the tag of the black here as well as the red. Before it gets too twisted up. Kind of cumbersome. I think the other way of doing it actually works a little bit smoother. In other words, when I would have tied in the shoulders, excuse me, not the shoulders, the throat, I would have changed over to a red thread. That gets you a nice red base on everything. Then once you get that in, all you have to do is put the black bands in the rear portion and the front portion. And like I said, I'm just switching over to this technique. I haven't quite got it down because what I find is on all of these, the band is too far forward. It's not, it should be right about in the middle here, and it might even be too wide. I don't know, but it's a little bit further forward. Could have and should have taken the white off a while ago. I don't know. I'm going to do a little bit more research, and if you're interested, just keep watching, because as I perfect this or learn this method, I will comment on it. And you can always leave a question or a comment. I'll respond. So now I'm just going to put on my whip finish. Trim away the thread, and I'm ready for some head cement. So I'm going to put some fly tight head cement on this right now, and that will seal it up. It soaks down into the threads and it seals that up real well. And then I'll come back in a minute and I'll put a couple of coats of a clear lacquer on here. And that will complete the P.L.B. number 1. So it's an interesting head technique, still kind of perfecting that a little bit, but that's a very colorful fly. I imagine around here in warm water country, that might even be a nice little bluegill imitation. There you have it. That's the P.L.B. number 1. Thanks for watching today. Thank you for joining me at the Vise today. I hope you learned a new pattern, at least a tip or trick here and there. If you'd like to help Dress Irons, you can like, comment, share, subscribe, all those wonderful things for the video. You can also head out to dressedirons.com where you can buy flies, tools, stickers, and merch, or you can join a growing community over on Locals at the Dressed Irons Fly Tying Guild. You can also donate to Dressed Irons if you want through the link at the bottom of the description. I thank everybody for their ongoing support, as it really does help the creation of these videos. But what's important is to remember, only fly tying. If you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong.